Coming up on the Q30 Newscast. The town of Hamden had its first ever gun buyback. Find out how these weapons are being repurposed. Plus, another member of SGA Student Government Association is stepping down. Find out why. And it's Black History Month. Find out what occurred on this day in 1942. All this and more on the Q30 Newscast. Good evening and welcome to the Q30 Newscast. I'm Kay Pattyfoot. This week we have a lot of Quinnipiac and local updates. An unknown male passenger boarded a Quinnipiac shuttle on Sunday night. The man got on at the Union Station stop. Associate Vice President for Public Relations John Morgan said in a statement from the university, quote, "A shuttle driver on Sunday night who is a new ProPark employee did not follow this policy and failed to check the ID of the male passenger who boarded the shuttle at Union Station. ProPark is reviewing this policy with all the employees to ensure this does not happen again," end quote. Another member of SGA Student Government Association is stepping down. Hepzibah Rajan has the full story.
In today's SGAE board meeting, Austin Calvo announced Esau Green's resignation from the SGAE board.
As you may have noticed from the agenda, Esau has stepped down. He is not here today because he was going to be in DC to not be here regardless. So whether that doesn't have an impact on him stepping down, he has resigned for personal reasons. I'm not going to divulge those here.
This came as a shock to certain e-board members, but they seem to be coping with it. There remains 4 weeks before general elections, so the election committee decided not to fill his position because they felt that it would be SGA endorsing a candidate for the general election. When asked if the Constitution allows for the president to take on the responsibilities of another e-board member, Kelly claimed that it was fine to do so, and in case something comes up, Calvo could always ask the e-board members for help.
Just because it does not need to be filled when the election is less than 60 days away. So instead of just leaving that position completely vacant and not addressing and recognizing the student experience aspect, we decided to have Austin kind of absorb that, and he's really just going to be taking on a couple extra duties, and if something needs to come up and he needs to bring in the other e-board members, he can.
Calvo is confident that he can take over Green's duties as he held the position of Vice President of Student Experience for a year and a half.
I mean, I just hope everyone knows that we'll be okay with this happening. I did the role for a year and a half. I'm confident in my ability to, like I said, do everything Esau was planning to do and wanted to do, and everything he said in his platform when he was running, to still create the culture that he wanted to create, to still create the culture that he was elected to create.
First-year students are finding little visitors in certain residence halls. Students living in the Commons dorms have reported multiple mice sightings. Assistant Director of Facilities Jonathan Terry said Quinnipiac is working to remove the mice. In a statement to Q30, Terry said, quote, "We are working closely with our contracted pest control services to identify any potential points of entry and to remove the problem from within the building," end quote. The Albert Schweitzer Institute has been managing the food recovery program. The program gives leftover food from the dining services at Quinnipiac to local community organizations that will give the food to those in need. This program is now open to the Quinnipiac student body, including faculty and staff offices. If any students have questions, they can reach out to food insecurity intern Anna Ciccarello. On this day, 78 years ago in 1942, the Tuskegee Airmen were initiated into the armed forces, known as the All-Black Army Air Corps Squadron. These pilots were the first African-American flying unit in the United States military. The men trained at the Tuskegee Army Airfield in Alabama during World War II. There were 992 pilots that flew 1,578 missions, and they were awarded over 850 medals. Student leaders on campus had a sit-down discussion with the Student Government Association President, Austin Calvo, on what it's like being a leader on a college campus in the 21st century. Afterwards, Q30 spoke to Senior Class President Julia Souser. Here's what she had to say.
I think just kind of making sure the narrative on campus is how wonderful it is to be a leader and how rewarding being a leader on campus can be, and just getting more people involved and encouraging them to take on leadership roles.
The event encouraged students to take leadership positions in their academic and professional careers. Andrew DePass, a junior biology major, was recently recognized by the American Association for Cancer Research. He was awarded the Undergraduate Scholar Award, which provides conference fees and a stipend for national conferences over the next 2 years, one in San Diego and one in Washington, D.C.
I hope to get more exposure to more really intense research, having chances to go ahead and talk about my research and get feedback, and learn different ways to approach problems and different questions, and also expand network connections, especially for grad school coming up.
Good luck to Andrew and all of his future work. Ricardo Dominguez, an adjunct Spanish professor, has been honored with the 2020 Best of Hamden Award for his photographic business. Each year, the Hamden Award program.
He's a funny guy, and if the class is too quiet, they're not responding to him. He'll draw a volume knob on the board, and then he'll try to turn it up with his hand. It's hilarious, and it gets everyone to laugh. And just like that, it sort of gets the spirit of the classroom up a little bit more, and I think that's great for a teacher.
Each year, the Hamden Award program identifies companies they believe have achieved, quote, exceptional marketing success in their local community and business category, end quote. The award focuses on quality, not quantity. The School of Communications is proposing a new cinematic production management program for graduate students. It will become the second cinematic production management master's program offered in the United States. 2 courses will initially be offered, which will focus on self-assessment. The program is currently in its final stages of planning and approval. Coming up after the break, find out how Quinnipiac students were getting involved in this year's New Hampshire's primary. And we'll go to Hepzibah Roger for this week's national news update. Stay tuned.
Thanks, Kay. It's been a nice day out here today. We had lots of sunny skies. Great day for a lot of tours here at Quinnipiac for preview day. It was 44 degrees as our high. Tonight we're looking at getting pretty chilly though. So make sure you warm up your cars in the morning because it's going to be 23 degrees. Tomorrow going to be 35 again. So not too bad out there, but also not too great. At least it won't rain again like it did all last week. But that's all I have. We'll have later on more in the show, a lot more weather for you. So stay with us.
With second semester starting just 2 weeks ago, student health services have already seen an increase in the flu within the Quinnipiac community. I met with Christy Chase to find out more.
I've not gotten the flu this year, and this was my first year ever getting the flu shot.
I was in bed, I was tired, I couldn't even eat.
A bad cough, a headache all the time, my nose was runny.
The flu is not new to Quinnipiac University. However, there was an increase of the amount of students who were diagnosed with the virus this year.
Definitely this year has started earlier. We usually see a high volume in February, but it seemed to be, that third or fourth week in January, we were seeing record numbers. I've been here for 13 years, and I don't think I've ever seen the numbers we've seen this year so far.
Quinnipiac students have noticed the increase as well. Many students this year either got the flu or know someone who did. And Felicia Blanchard got the flu twice this year.
I had the flu twice this year because I work with preschoolers, and a lot of the kids there do get sick, so I was kind of in the petri dish of getting it.
Christy Chase says that everyone on campus should be practicing good hygiene daily.
I think it's really important, whether it's the flu, it's, a gastrointestinal illness, strep throat, anything like that. I think it's really important that everyone, staff, students, faculty, good hand washing. Nothing beats it.
Some students don't think the flu shot is really effective, since a lot of students who did get the flu shot still got the flu.
I've heard that it doesn't work that well, but if it's better, I will.
From what I heard, the flu shot this year prevented against the other strain of virus, which I didn't get. I got the flu B, and I'm pretty sure the flu shot was more receptive to flu A.
Some tips on how to stay healthy this school year is whenever you cough, to make sure you're coughing in your elbow like this, and to make sure you're always washing your hands and using Purell when needed. Now you can find more tips on Q30's website. Outside of the health center, I'm Kate Pattyfoot for Q30 News. The Office of Community Service is sponsoring alternative spring break proposals. If students are interested in designing their own break, they are encouraged to go to the info sessions.
So the office was making some strategic plans about transforming the way in which it offers alternative break experiences, and we decided that maybe the best option moving forward was to offer to students to suggest locations and issues that were important to them for spring break service experiences.
There are 2 sessions, one on February 19th at 9:15 at night and one on February 25th at the same time in CCE room 102. Students that are committed to service and social justice are encouraged to come out. The town of Hampden ended with a surplus of around $506,000 for the 2018-2019 fiscal year. Mayor Lang said at a press conference that this money will be used for the town's, quote, rainy day fund, and to help direct the consequences of the state's budget last year, end quote. Quinnipiac recently sent 19 students to New Hampshire to help campaign for the New Hampshire primaries. They also were able to attend debates, among other things. Brooke Riley has more.
19 Quinnipiac students traveled to Manchester, New Hampshire for the New Hampshire primary last week.
They would work hard for at least one candidate, maybe encounter a different candidate, maybe work a little bit for them, knocking on doors, but then really get to see a wide variety of candidates.
McLean has been bringing students in his presidential election campaigns class to the New Hampshire primaries for 20 years.
The main thing I want them to learn is just what goes into a presidential campaign. What's the strategy? Why do they need people to knock on doors? Why is it that the most effective, by all measures, the most effective way to get people to change their vote or to vote?
This gives students the opportunity to get a hands-on experience working on real campaigns. To the students, this is everything.
It was unlike anything I probably could have ever experienced, because I was actually out in the field seeing what, essentially putting paper to the real world and seeing how the primaries worked, operated, and how campaigns strategized in order to maximize voters.
Each student chooses a candidate to campaign for and spends the time going door to door to canvass voters.
I think that, being there and learning from all the different political candidates, inspired me to one day run for office.
These students are mostly political science majors, but they believe it is important for all students to gain experiences like this.
I think that everyone should go and work on this because, getting foot on the ground and going to these doors and meeting these people, you learn a very good value in what kind of work goes into these campaigns, and it teaches you a lot about your patriotism to this country as well.
As for the future of this program, McLean plans to continue bringing students to the New Hampshire primaries every 4 years and hopes to bring student reporters along to cover the event. At Quinnipiac University, Brooke Riley, Q30 News.
Our very own Hannah Mursky is in the studio for this week's political update. Hannah?
Thank you, Kay. There's been a lot going on in politics this week, so let's get right into it. Former Mayor of New York City, Michael Bloomberg, will be on stage for the first time with his rivaling candidates at the Democratic presidential debate at the Paris Theater in Las Vegas today. In NPR's recent national poll, Bloomberg raced to second past Joe Biden with 19% of the Democratic vote behind Bernie Sanders at 31%. He has become an American household name by pouring about $320 million into TV advertisements alone. He skipped the Iowa caucus and New Hampshire primary to focus on California before the primary in 2 weeks. Early Tuesday morning, Massachusetts State Representative David Nangle was arrested by the FBI and IRS on dozens of charges. He was indicted for spending $70,000 on campaign money on himself, tax fraud, and swindling with a local bank to secrete his gambling debt. Nangle spent his campaign money on golf club dues, restaurant bills, and rental cars. For years, Nangle filed false tax returns and used fake deductions to indicate no taxable incomes. Nangle could be faced with at least $1 million in fines and decades in prison. And finally, President Trump commuted the sentence for the former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, who is currently serving his 14-year sentence for corruption following his attempt to sell his Senate seat, replacing Barack Obama for personal benefit. Blagojevich was one of the 12 names the White House announced will be granted clemency. During his 8 years in prison, he had taught GED courses and mentored prisoners on professional development. As a past contestant on President Trump's former reality show, Celebrity Apprentice, Trump has expressed he believes his sentence was unreasonable. That is all I have for this week's political news. Back to you, Kay.
Thanks, Hannah. It's now time for our second break. Coming up next, we will have a full weather forecast for you. Plus, information on Hamden's first ever gun buyback, followed by a national news update. Stay with us.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly. Lights out. Good night. And put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Brooke Riley has the full weather update. Brooke?
Thanks, Kay. It was a nice day out here today, but let's take a look at the temperatures around the state of Connecticut right now. It is a little chilly. We'll start over in Torrington. It is 29 degrees, Danbury 33, New Haven we're at 38, Hartford going out there, it's 34 degrees. In Norwich we have 31 degrees, and New London over on the coast it is 35 degrees. So it's clearly a little bit warmer on the coast tonight. So the further inland you go, the colder it might get. And we're going to move on to our 7-day forecast. So as I said before, today was a beautiful day, clearly 44 degrees, partly cloudy skies, can't complain. Tonight our low is going to be 23 degrees. Make sure you start your car early in the morning to get that frost off the windshield. Thursday, we're looking at a nice day, partly cloudy skies also, 35 is our high and 17 as our low. Moving on to the weekend, we got lots and lots of sun, great weekend to go out and about, maybe time to get back to hiking the Giant. It's going to be 35 degrees on Friday with a low of 24, so not too bad. We're starting to creep out of those winter temperatures. Weekend, we're looking at mid to high 40s, 46 degrees on Saturday and 49 degrees on Sunday. Lots and lots of sun. Going into next week though, Monday, we're sticking with the 40s, 49 degrees both Monday and Tuesday with 39 as the low both days. I don't see any rain in the picture for the next week, which is really awesome for all these Quinnipiac students looking to get out of their houses and kind of walk around campus, walk around Sleeping Giant. Great week to get out and about. That's all I have for this week's weather forecast. Kay, back to you.
Hampden held its first ever gun buyback this week. Kaylee Heffler has more on the story.
The town of Hampden hosted their first gun buyback event this past Saturday at the Hampden Police Department. The gun buyback, an anonymous event, was aimed at making the community safer while making sure guns did not fall into the hands of the wrong people. On Monday of last week, town officials and Hampden PD held a press conference discussing details of the event and where the idea came from.
What gave me the idea to do it, I saw a demonstration of the swords into plowshares where they were actually taking guns and using blacksmith tools to make them into garden tools. And I asked where they got those guns from, and they said New Haven gun buybacks. And it made me think, why don't we have one in Hampden?
The event gave residents of Hampden and non-residents the chance to safely dispose of unwanted weapons. The Hampden PD also provided free gun locks and car safes for owners who do not want to dispose of their weapons but safely secure them. According to Hampden PD, 149 firearms ranging in size were turned in on Saturday. The outcome was much better than expected.
Well, I didn't know what to expect. This is our first time doing it. We were a little worried that we wouldn't get anybody, so when we did see people lining up, that made us all feel a little better, but I did not expect to get the numbers that we got.
Now the guns will either be sent to the state for test firing or be sent to be turned into garden tools. Raw Tools is an organization that accepts guns and repurposes them into garden tools.
We use what we can to make garden tools to support our work, and then what we can't make into garden tools, we make into art or other items that will be sold to support another organization that is working at the intersections of gun violence.
For Q30 News, I'm Kaylee Heffler.
There has been a lot of news happening across the country. Hepzibah Rajan has the details. Hepzibah?
Thank you, Kay. 5 people were shot at the Majestic Lounge in Hartford Sunday morning, leaving 1 dead and 4 wounded. Police identified the victim to be 28-year-old Marcus Treadwell. A tweet from the Hartford Police Department revealed that 2 individuals were severely wounded. Treadwell's 30-year-old female companion was shot 9 times, according to Hartford Police. Joshua Says was also found a few blocks away in a crashed vehicle. Detectives say they served a warrant to Says in his hospital room. Says was charged with murder, 2 counts of first-degree assault, criminal possession, and use of a firearm. The police are still searching for the gunman who shot Says and another bystander in the club. Recently, the Boy Scouts of America filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection early Tuesday. Last year, state courts passed laws that allow victims who faced abuse to sue for damages causing Boy Scouts of America to lose money. The 110-year-old organization has filed a case in the Delaware Bankruptcy Court to stop hundreds of lawsuits pending against them for sexual misconduct. Seattle-based lawyer Michael Fall, who has represented over 300 Boy Scout victims in 34 states, told the New York Daily News, quote, This will be the largest bankruptcy the court has ever seen, and likely one of the largest corporate bankruptcies, end quote. This move allows BSA to maintain its mission while compensating for the tragic abuse that victims suffered. Finally, an update on the coronavirus. The Westerdam cruise ship arrived in Cambodia on February 14th. Supposedly, no cases of coronavirus were found on the ship, but over the weekend, an American passenger on the ship tested positive for coronavirus. This raised concerns about other passengers as well. Many Westerdam passengers are stuck in Cambodia as local health officials look to prevent anyone else infected from the virus from leaving the situation. This situation is becoming a crisis for Carnival, the owner of Westerdam. The Diamond Princess, a British cruise ship, has been docked outside the Japanese port city after multiple coronavirus cases were reported on board. Back to you at the desk, Kay.
Unfortunately, it's now time for yet another break. But when we come back, we will have a full update on Quinnipiac sports. Don't go anywhere.
There are amazing things to discover in the forest.
Toothless, time to go! What you picking up on, bud?
It's a whole hidden world of wonders. And the perfect place to spend time with family. What better place to let your imagination soar? Experience nature and create a memory you can share. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest or park near you.
Welcome back to the Q30 Newscast. Mike Dalton is in the studio tonight to give us a full sports report. Mike, what do you have for us?
Thanks, Kay. Tickets for the QU Yale game for men's ice hockey go on sale this Sunday, but students who attend the women's basketball game against Rider this Thursday night at 6 p.m. will receive priority seating for the Yale game on February 29th at 7 p.m. The Quinnipiac men's ice hockey team is coming off a 6-1 victory over the St. Lawrence Saints on Saturday. Junior forward O.D. Tufto got the scoring started on this play, getting past from a teammate Wyatt Bongiovanni trying to fight off a back check and somehow going top shelf past goalie Daniel Manella. The Bobcats will hit the road and play RPI this Friday. Puck drop at 7 p.m. On the hardwood, the Quinnipiac men's basketball team's struggles continue for the third straight game. The Bobcats shot under 30% from three-point range in a 79-63 loss to Rider. The Bobcats have lost 9 of their past 11 games and are currently on a 5-game losing streak. But they should finish the regular season on a high note. Here are the next 4 games for you. For the Bobcats, Fairfield and Canisius are 2 of the 3 bottom teams in the conference standings, while Monmouth and Siena are 2 of the top 4 teams in the MAC. However, Quinnipiac did beat Monmouth back on January 12th. After that, the Bobcats have 2 more games against Marist and Iona. And an unusual but memorable road trip for the Quinnipiac women's ice hockey team this past weekend. The Bobcats were on their way to Cheel Arena in Potsdam, New York to play the number 6 Clarkson when a bus broke down. Luckily for the Bobcats, the Princeton women's ice hockey team was on their way to play St. Lawrence, which is just a 15-minute drive from Clarkson. The Tigers decided to lend a helping hand to the Bobcats, giving them a ride to Clarkson, where the Bobcats would upset the Golden Knights, winning 2-1. The Bobcats are back in Hamden hosting Yale and Brown this Friday and Saturday. And that's all for sports, Kay. Back to you.
Well, that is all we have for tonight. Make sure to follow us at Q30 News on Twitter and to check out for all of our updates. I'm Kay Pattyfoot. Good night.